Okay, well, I'll get us started. Welcome to the SBA Emergency Loan Programs webinar. My name is Tanya Mole, and I'm the regional representative from Middle Georgia for the Georgia Department of Community Affairs.
And my name is Candace Scott, and I am the project manager for the Middle Georgia area for the Georgia Department of Economic Development. On behalf of Governor Brian Kemp and Economic Development Commissioner Pat Wilson, I want to welcome you to this webinar.
Okay, and on behalf of the Georgia Department of Community Affairs Commissioner Christopher Nunn, welcome, and we are hopeful that the information you're about to hear will direct you to the right resources to help your businesses weather the COVID-19 storm. It is my pleasure to introduce to you Mr. Peter Williams, who is a business consultant for the University of Georgia Small Business Development Center in Macon.
Well, thank you, Tanya, and thank you, Candace. And some of you may have been on the webinar last week, and if you were, welcome back. We think that we have some information that will be new to you, even if you were here last week. Before I start, I'm going to sort of just give a couple parameters and things to keep in mind as we go through. The first thing, our objective today is to present a broad overview of the various SBA loan programs that pertain to small businesses based on what we know right now. Certain elements are subject to change or may be subject to change just based upon factors including emerging SBA guidance. These are programs that were enacted still a very short period of time ago, and they're in the process of being implemented. The other thing to let you know, for those of you who might not be familiar with our respective organizations, but the UGA Small Business Development Center, nor the Department of Community Affairs, nor the Georgia Department of Economic Development are lenders. All lending decisions, any and all lending decisions that you might encounter as you move forward, if you pursue any of these lending opportunities, would be made by the lender and or the SBA. The guidance and the information that we're presenting today is sort of meant to be broadly applicable. However, if you have a situation where you'd like to receive individual additional guidance and assistance, you can contact us. We're here for that. That's one of the things our organization exists to provide. And so we'll provide contact information at the end of the presentation, and you can receive individual assistance as well. The PowerPoint, there's going to be two downloads initially. The PowerPoint that I'm using will be available for download, and we'll give the download link towards the end of the presentation. Our group, the SBDC, has also put together a 3 or 4 page PDF that condenses and summarizes a lot of the comparative information between the different programs. And the coolest takeaway from that is there's actually a comparison grid on one of the pages, and that's a PDF that some other states have actually adopted in full based on the quality they see in it. So we are making that available for download as well, even though some excerpts from that are also included in the PowerPoint. So that's 2 downloads. And then the third one is a result kind of the Q&A that we hope you engage in. The way we've set this up is that all of the participants' sound microphones are muted. And what we want you to do, we hope you do, is you will fill up our chat box with your questions. And what we're going to do is we're going to have a Q&A period towards the end of the presentation, and we're going to leave a significant amount of time for questions and answers. However, if we don't get to your question, well, whether we get to your question or not, we're going to take all of the questions and we're going to put together a document in which we answer all the questions. And we're going to upload those to our website within 24 hours. So we want you to ask questions, and our guarantee is that the only way you won't get an answer to your question is if you don't ask your question. So fill up our chat box and we'll get you an answer. So with that preamble, just a quick introduction to the University of Georgia SBDC. We are a part of the University of Georgia, and where we fit into the university is in what's called the Public Service and Outreach Division. And our mission is to provide educational support and resources to people just like you, to small business owners in Georgia. And we do that in two primary ways. We provide one-on-one confidential consulting with business owners offered by appointment and at no cost. And then we also offer low-cost training programs and classes that are on small business topics, and the classes are offered to members of the public. The map that you can see right now with 17 stars on that, and every once in a while I count them up again just to be sure, but those are our 17 locations around Georgia. And so there's an office that's near you, and many of you, I think, will be connecting to the Macon Center based on where you're located. But wherever you're located, we'll find the right office for you and get you the help you need. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump in. What I'm going to talk about is 4 different programs. The first one is the SBA Guaranteed Loan Payment Relief. Second one is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, or EIDL, the acronym, and its recent cousin, the EIDL Advance. Then the Paycheck Protection Program, or PPP, is one that's gotten quite a bit of attention lately. And finally, the Emergency Bridge Loan. We're going to give a little information about that as well. So let's go ahead and jump in. This first one, the SBA Guaranteed Loan Payment Relief. This is for people who have an SBA loan currently, or you obtain one before September 27th of 2020. If you are a person who has a loan like that, an existing borrower whose loan is not on deferment, the SBA will actually pay your principal, interest, and associated fees for the next 6 months. And that is a payment, it's not a deferral. Second, if you have an existing SBA loan that is on deferment, then beginning with the next payment following the deferment period, the SBA would pay 6 payments. And then if you're a new borrower, and that is to say, if you take an SBA 7A loan, a 504 loan, or an SBA microloan that closes prior to September 27th of 2020, then your first 6 payments will be made on your behalf by the SBA. So this is an enormously important program. I have had several clients already who have benefited from that. if you're in a position like this, it is supposed to be automatic that the SBA will just take care of this. But a couple things to just let you know, there's a lot of things going on right now. And so I would encourage you to be proactive and reach out to your bank, your lender on any of these SBA loans, and just confirm that that's being implemented. And the other thing, a lot of SBA loans provide for automatic ACH drafts from your account for payments. So you'll want to make sure that you turn that off during the 6-month period, and then you turn it back on when you have to start paying again. So that's a major program with a whole lot of beneficiaries all over the state and all over the nation. The next one to touch on is the EIDL, or the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. One difference between this program and just about any other SBA lending program is that in this program, the lender is actually the SBA itself. So you apply directly to the SBA, the money comes to you directly from the SBA, and you make your loan payments directly to the SBA. There's not a third-party lender involved. Excuse me. So eligibility, in a nutshell, you need to be a small business, and broadly speaking, that means if you're a business with 500 employees or fewer, and this can include sole proprietorships, independent contractors, cooperatives, employee-owned companies or ESOPs, and tribal small businesses with fewer than 500 employees. The loans can be up to $2 million, and they're designed to help business owners meet financial obligations and operating expenses that they could have met otherwise if the disaster had not occurred. And the way to think of this is as working capital. Now, in the Department of Evolving Guidance, we have begun to hear in the last few days, as far as I know, as of right now, we have not heard this officially from the SBA, but we have heard it from sources that we deem to generally be reliable in our experience, are saying that the EIDL loans will be capped at approximately $25,000, including the potential EIDL advance that you may receive. So it's a little bit lower than $2 million seems to be available for the time being. And that this is, again, flagging this is new information in the last few days. Loans under the EIDL program can be made based solely on credit scores. And what I'm going to do before we move past this slide, I'm actually going to just go through for you what's in the EIDL application, and you'll see there's not a lot of credit information about your company. So the loans can be made solely on credit scores. The interest rate on EIDLs will be 3.75% fixed for 30 years. And the first 12 payments under this program will be deferred, and that is a deferral, not a payment. So the first 12 payments are deferred and don't become payable until that deferral period has expired. The term of the loans is up to 30 years. And let me, before I jump into this next slide, the way that you apply for this loan is you actually, the best way to do it is online. Because of the way the thing is set up, you can't really see the whole application. You sort of advance one page at a time. So just to sort of let you know what to expect, the first thing you'll see, the first page and series of questions is to verify your eligibility, and then make certain disclosures about yourself, and they make them about the program. Then you move into information about your business. And I've been telling people that a large proportion of the information that's asked of you in this application, you'll know it by heart. It really is a streamlined application. So the business information is your legal, for example, your legal name, your trade name, when your business was established, your EIN and SSN. The only financial information is not an upload. It just is two questions. One asks for your gross revenues in the 12 months leading up to January 31st of 2020. And then they ask for your cost of sales. Then they ask for your address, et cetera, your location, and then contact information. And finally, they ask what line of business you're in. What does your business do? And how many employees do you have? Then they move forward to information about the business owner individually. And then finally, they ask for you to check a box whether or not you want to be considered for what's called an EIDL Advance. And I have been struggling to understand why anybody would not check yes to that box. But anyway, that's a transition into the EIDL Advance, which this part was actually enacted by the CARES Act. And it goes like this. For people that apply for the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, the EIDL, an advance based on your number of employees, $1,000 for each employee up to a maximum of $10,000 will be provided to small businesses within 2 to 3 weeks of applying for the loan. The advance does not need to be repaid. So you may receive an advance, and even if you get turned down subsequently for the loan, or you decline to take the loan that you get approved for, the advance does not need to be repaid. The funds are allowable to be used for purposes that mirror the allowable purposes under the EIDL loan program. And something tells me that there still may be verification, even though you don't have to pay this back. There still might be something along the way where you need to verify and document that you did use the money for these prescribed purposes. So just like with the EIDL, do keep your receipts, even though this doesn't have to be paid back. And then the eligibility closely mirrors the eligibility for the EIDL loan. All right, the next program, and this, as I mentioned, this has gotten a lot of attention, and it's the most recently implemented program, and it's called the Paycheck Protection Program, and it is a variation of the SBA 7A program. It's a new program sort of under that SBA 7A lending umbrella. And that's important because under this program, the lender is not the SBA. The lender is a lending institution, a bank, which is authorized by the SBA to participate in the program. So to apply for this program, you will need first to identify a bank that will take your application. The current rate on this program is 1%, and it's fixed for a term of 2 years. And the eligibility, these are all targeted to small businesses. And this one specifically mentions the SBA size standards. The SBA size standards are available. You can Google SBA size standards. Type that into your search inquiry box, and the top search result will be a PDF from the SBA website that you can download. It's about a 20-page PDF, and you can look for your company's industry code, and you can see the specific size standard for your company. But you got to be a small business. And then other eligibility, sole proprietors, self-employed, and independent contractors can all apply under this program. The program has been streamlined from a regulatory standpoint. And for example, the SBA's customary no credit elsewhere test is waived. You don't have to prove that this is your only option. No personal guarantee or collateral is required under this program. And no additional fees will be applied to these loans. And this would be a good time to say, none of the programs in this presentation entail fees. Well, I better be careful because one of them does. But the EIDL loan does not apply, does not include any fees. Fees to apply, fees to close the loan, servicing fees, or prepayment fees. And that's true for the Paycheck Protection Program as well. No additional fees to the borrower. And then the size of the PPP loans are up to $10 million. And the loan amount is based on your business's recent payroll costs of compensation paid to individuals, including self-employed. And we say based on recent payroll costs, the formula is 2.5 times your average monthly payroll is the size of the Paycheck Protection Program loan that you can you expect to be approved for. Requirements. Your small business under this loan program needs to certify that the loan will be used to retain workers, maintain payroll, make mortgage interest payments or rent lease payments, and to pay, to pay utilities. And this is the exciting part for most people. Loans can be forgiven up to an amount equaling your spending on eligible payroll, mortgage interest, rent, and utility costs incurred during the 8-week period starting from when your loan closes. A couple things to keep in mind when you're calculating your average payroll and when you're calculating your forgiveness amount, annualized compensation to any individual in excess of $100,000 a year does not qualify for availability or for forgiveness. Non-payroll costs cannot make up more than 25% of your loan forgiveness amounts. So the focus here is on payroll. Loan forgiveness is reduced by layoffs or pay reductions over a certain amount, 25%. And this is the other thing that people really like when they hear about the program is loan forgiveness is not is not treated as taxable income. Okay, and then this is a new program from the last presentation, and we've been getting some questions about it. It is best viewed kind of as a loan of last resort. We recommend you try the other two that I talked about a minute ago first, but this emergency bridge loan, the lender needs to be an SBA Express approved lender, and it needs to be a lender with whom you have a current relationship. So nobody's taking any new customers on this one. The maximum loan amount is $25,000. On this one, fees are permitted, and I'll show a comparison of the various fees in a minute or two. And the SBA guarantees just 50% of this loan as compared to guaranteeing 100% of the PPP loans. To be eligible, your business has to have been operational as of March 13th, 2020. And the proceeds need to be used to reopen or for the ongoing survival of the business. Collateral is not required, though a personal guarantee may be required. And this loan is not forgivable. And it has an interest rate of prime plus no higher than 6.5% with a max of 7-year term. Now I want to show you, before we go to Q&A, I want to go through some excerpts from the document I mentioned a minute ago, the comparison grid. And this is a PDF which is downloadable in full, but wanted to go ahead and show you some of these things. One question we've gotten a lot about all of these is the application deadline. The EIDL and the EIDL Advance, you can apply up through December 31st, 2020. The PPP loan has an application deadline of June 30th, and we've seen different numbers as time has gone on. I saw a number in the newspaper today that approximately $220 billion of PPP loans have been approved. And the program is about $350 billion. So it's time to get your application in if you haven't done that and you think this program might be for you. The EBL has a 1 year or so expiration. It expires March 13th is the last date to apply of 2021. The use of proceeds, you see a common theme here. They're meant to be used for working capital, and the PPP one has a specific emphasis on payroll, but all of them are allowed to be used for payroll. And the emergency bridge loan, that's a survival loan. And this slide pertains to the collateral and the personal guarantee and the affiliation requirements. The only, the EIDL, I just want to call your attention, the EIDL loan may call for a personal guarantee for loan amounts up to $200,000, above $200,000. But it doesn't appear likely that that loan amount is going to be available to very many people at this point. And under the EBL, as I mentioned, the personal guarantee may be required. And then the forgivable language, the PPP is in large part, it's really designed to be forgivable if the spending matches the purposes it's designed for, and that it occurs in the required period of time. And then finally, this last grid is a comparison of the interest and the term and the prepayment penalty. And none of them have a prepayment penalty. So our recommended path forward would be apply for the PPP loan with an SBA designated lender. Check the box on the application for the appropriate expenses that you think you're going to use it for. The only one that goes toward determining your loan amount is your historic monthly payroll expenses, but go ahead and check the box for all of the expenses you think you're going to use the money for. EIDL is an online application. It really doesn't take much time at all. Your advance request is included. These are funds to help you with cash flow. Consider the EBL as a lower tier option. You could see from the presentation, the loan terms are just not as favorable as the other ones. Begin to try to identify alternative lending sources and perhaps ways to modify your vendor arrangements to preserve cash flow. And check our website. Check our website and call us with the SBDC. We'd be honored to work with you and happy to work with you. I'm going to skip to here before we skip to questions. I want to give the contact information for the Macon office is macon@georgiasbdc.org. Our program coordinator, Trudy Lawrence, watches that email, and those emails come to her, and she is gifted at discerning the need that you have and either reaching out to you if she's not sure what you need, or sometimes she'll reach out anyway for additional clarification and then getting you connected to the right resource, whether that's a consultant in our office or whether it's another of our geographic offices. And then take a screenshot, if you will. This is the download link for this PowerPoint. And then also for the PDF I've keep mentioning, the comparison grid, and the Q&A that represents questions that we don't get to. Well, it's all the questions, whether we get to them or not today. The Q&A will be posted with responses to all the questions that are asked today. So moving to Q&A. Hopefully we can answer a bunch of these. One question that somebody asked, and a couple other ones, a couple people have asked me in recent days, is what about the timing of the PPP? I don't think I'm going to be open right away, and I just want to make sure that when I start hiring people or rehiring my people, that as much of that is forgivable as possible. And unfortunately, there's not a lot of flexibility. The lender is actually required to disperse the funds once they've been approved within 10 days of the approval. So there's not a lot of wiggle room on that. And it just makes sense to go ahead and apply as these funds are being spoken for. A lot of people are applying, and the program has a limit. It may be expanded. There's talk of that, but that's that's what you'd have to measure in your analysis. A question somebody asks, for the payroll calculation, are the employer match costs included in the average monthly payroll calculation? And the answer is no, they are not. The withholding amounts, the employee withholding amounts certainly are, but the employer match amounts are not. Somebody asked, can I apply for both? And absolutely, you can apply for both. And a related question, somebody said, can I combine them? Can I roll my EIDL into my PPP? With the timing of the EIDL fundings now being between 2 weeks and a month, the PPP approvals actually seem to be coming back quicker. But to the question, can I roll my EIDL into my PPP? You can do that, but that doesn't increase the amount of forgivability of the PPP. That's based solely on your spending on allowable expenses during the 8 weeks from when you take the PPP loan. So rolling your EIDL into a PPP, you're rolling a 30-year loan into a 2-year loan. And you might not want to do that. If you just might want to carefully consider that. That might not be right for you. Okay, can I get more than one PPP loan? And in the sense of the way things are constituted now, the answer is no. Not unless you have 2 separate businesses. If you have 2 or 3 businesses, you can get 2 or 3 PPP loans, but it's one to a customer at the moment. Okay, the SBA debt relief loans, what SBA loans are eligible for debt relief? Is the PPP loan eligible for debt relief? And no, it is not. The loans that are eligible for the SBA debt relief, and that was the first program in the PowerPoint that I talked about, where the SBA will make 6 payments. That is for 7A loans, not including the Paycheck Protection Program. It's for 504 loans, and it's for micro loans that are made by the banks prior to September 27th of 2020. What else do we got here? How do I, could you repeat the size standards? The size standards generally are what govern your eligibility as a small business, the SBA size standards. And you can check with our office for those size standards. It's easy to go ahead and Google SBA size standards into your Google search box, and the top search result will be the SBA size standards, and you can download that and look for your company and make sure you're eligible. Does the does the $10,000 that from the advance still need to be accounted for with receipts or expense invoices, etc.? I would treat it that way for sure. A couple people have asked how they can check the status of their EIDL, and there's a number, and you may want to jot this down if this was your question. There's a number at the SBA that you can call, and it's toll free. It's 800-659-2955. So you can find out the status of your EIDL. My suspicion is you'll be on hold for a little bit, but 800-659-2955. Same thing if you want to make changes to your EIDL application, call that number. And then everybody wants to know any idea when the EIDL funds will start to be distributed. they have started to be distributed. We have heard, and to give you a little backstory a little bit about the SBDC, we've got about 50 consultants around the state, and we've all been working overtime for several weeks now, and we collaborate with each other on Microsoft Teams. And so we're sharing information with each other about what's going on all over the state. And we have started to hear from our colleagues around the state that EIDL loans and advances are beginning to be funded. And that's very good news. We haven't seen a flood of them be funded, but maybe we can look for that in coming days now that they've started. If I applied for EIDL 2 weeks ago, do I need to reapply? If you applied for EIDL on the old application, and old is a real relative term, if you applied using the application that was on the website prior to March 28th of 2020, you do need to reapply. You will know if you use that form based on if it required you to upload your past tax returns. If you applied that way, you do need to reapply. And the good news is it'll only take you about 15 minutes, but you do need to reapply. Is it possible to correct income figures after submitting either the PPP or EIDL applications? And it is. You would need to contact your bank for corrections to your PPP. And for the EIDL application, you would need to call that 800 number that I gave a few moments ago. And I hope I'm not going through these too quickly. And I'm just trying to answer as many as I can on the call. I have no employees and am self-employed. Which program works for me? I think you're eligible for both programs, and I would go ahead and go for that. Well, let's see. Process for people who have multiple businesses. If you have multiple businesses, you can apply separately for those businesses. The SBA does have some affiliation guidelines where they want to make sure that if you own multiple companies, or you're owned by another company, or you own another company, that when you combine those entities together, the combined entity would still result in it being considered a small business and thereby eligible. But assuming that's the case, you would go ahead and apply separately, would be our recommendation for each one of your eligible small businesses. Do I include my own payroll if I'm the owner of the business? And you definitely do. One of the questions that's come up a few times in the last few days, and yesterday a business owner and I were talking, and she said, "Oh, I'm the sole employee of this company, and I paid myself a salary of $102,000, so I know I'm not eligible for the PPP." And she had just misunderstood. It's only amounts in excess of $100,000 that are ineligible. So she was still eligible for that average monthly payroll, spreading the $100,000 annually over 12 months. So it's just that excess period. Will you recap where you apply for the EIDL and the PPP? Yes, the PPP application, actually, let me answer a couple questions here. The PPP application is available. That's a publicly available document disseminated by the SBA and the Treasury Department, and you can Google that, you can find it. If you're a member of a Chamber of Commerce right now and you go to their website, I haven't seen one in the last several days that doesn't have a link to the PPP application. However, remember that program is through banks. And so we've gotten a question from a few people, wait a minute, my bank is sending me to an online portal. Is that right? And that is right. The bank is allowed to do that under the CARES Act. They're allowed to set up a proprietary portal where they gather the information. They do need to gather all of the required information from the form. The EIDL application is, again, that's the program that's direct from the SBA, and it's a web-based application. And I don't have a link to it right now to flash on the screen. However, if you would like to email our office, we can email the link right back to you, and we'll be happy to do so. So that's where you can find those. But on the PPP, where do you apply? You got to find a bank that's in the business. Okay, I'm being told, and again, thanks for being here. I'm being told that we have a hard stop here. We are doing these webinars kind of every hour on the hour around the state today and tomorrow. So we have to wrap up, and so I'll throw it back. Thank you for attending. Please follow up with us here in Macon or with other SBDC offices for any answers, any questions that we haven't answered. Go to the download link and get the documents and the question list write up that we'll upload tomorrow. And now Candace and Tanya, back to you.
Yeah, I want to say thank you for an excellent overview of the SBA emergency programs. As you pointed out, your contact information is available on the Macon SBDC website, as well as summaries of these resources.
On behalf of Governor Kent, Department of Community Affairs, and the Georgia Department of Economic Development, we want to thank you again for joining us today. It's important to us and our leadership to ensure that our small businesses are aware of these relief programs during this unprecedented time. Please feel free to lean on Peter, Tanya, or myself to assist you and your business in any way possible. Thank you again for your time today. Stay safe, stay in touch, and let us know if we can help.